There's nothing more important for your organization than the look and functionality of where your team spends most of their time. Here at Netting Pros and STADIONIC, we create iconic facilities that exceed industry standards and become the headline of your organization. We've worked with dozens of the top leagues, collegiate programs, and professional baseball organizations.
We are here at Clemson University to build our second baseball field on a football field.
And having that partner with Netting Pros to be able to look at that and say, how can we make this happen that can be great for fans, great for the experience, and they nailed it.
We have customized solutions for whatever your needs may be to help every aspect of your project, bringing facilities to life.
You got to make sure that we're having the top premier products. We want the best for our guys.
Without great partnerships and collaboration with Netting Pros, we wouldn't be able to pull this off.
We're confident that your venue will stand above the rest and your vision for the future will be made into a reality.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Conversations brought to you by D1Baseball.com. I want to say thank you again to our good friends at Netting Pros. This is a very, very fun topic. Obviously in college baseball, it's all about Omaha, getting to Omaha. That's what we wake up thinking about. That's what we go to bed thinking about. And in our new format, this format we've had since 1999, we've only had 5 teams ever go to Omaha 4 straight years. And we're going to talk about one of those teams. That's TCU from 2014 to 2017. Texas did it in the early 2000s. UNC did it from 2006 to 2009. Stanford did it when we first went to the format, 99 to 03. Florida from 15 to 18. And this TCU, I would argue that what TCU did in these 4 years was more dramatic than any of those other 4 Omaha streaks. No offense to those other teams. It's bonkers because getting to Omaha one time is incredibly difficult and precarious. And I know it only takes 5 wins to do it, but it feels like it takes 500 wins. And so this is going to be awesome. And to help me tell this story, I've got 2 great guests. So at first I've got Connor Wanhanen, and Connor was C-Dub, as I'm going to call him, because his last name is an absolute handful. 2015 Big 12 Freshman of the Year. And it's funny because, you know, I've known Jim Schlossnagle forever. His name is brutal to pronounce. And then Kirk Sarlos' name is always very tricky. And then Connor comes on the scene as this freshman who's really good. And you're like, oh, great. Like, please take TCU off of my schedule as a broadcaster, right? Like, it's just an absolute roster full of landmines. But Connor's a 4-year starter. I mean, unbelievable stats. 215 games played, 193 career hits. Played on, so 2015 was his freshman year, and so he plays on 3 of these Omaha teams. And I will say this too, as someone who loves college baseball, you listen to a lot of the games that are done, you know, like school broadcasts, if you will, local broadcasts. And, you know, if I could brag on Connor and Chuck LaMondola, that's the best, right? Like if you're in my role and you get to listen to a TCU game, because, like, you know, you're in the business of watching games, those are a treat. That you feel like it's a big league operation. So those 2 guys do such a great job. And obviously Connor did some games for ESPN proper last summer for the Little League coverage. So awesome. Super glad to have C-Dub with us. And then Brian Howard, who I will not call Brian ever again on this call. We're going to call him Howie. 6'9" right-hander, another famous name from this run. Howie was there for all 4 of these Omaha teams, 2014 and 2017. Again, the numbers are incredible. Howie was 26-5 in college, a 3.46 ERA, 40 starts. And the thing that's crazy, too, about Howie's career is in the postseason, it's like up a notch. You know, like his junior and senior year, it's like 40 postseason innings with like 6 earned runs given up. So just these 2 guys are perfect to help me tell tell the stories of these teams. And, you know, of course, the coaches, Jim Schlossnagle will be a big character in this deal. Fellas, let's start here. I want you guys to tell me how you came to TCU. Howie, why don't you go first since you were there first? Tell us your origin story with the Horned Frogs.
Sure. So it's kind of relevant to the news around college baseball right now is I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I pitched in the Metro Catholic Conference for St. Louis University High School, and our rival high school is DeSmet Jesuit in St. Louis. Well, there's a coach there who coached baseball and soccer there for a long time with the last name Vitello. And his son was the recruiting coordinator at TCU at the time, Tony Vitello. And I think the only reason is they went up to St. Louis for a kid like me at that time was his dad said, hey, you can pitch a little bit. So I was taking other visits, doing other college campus tours and all that kind of thing. And just nothing really felt right. And everyone always said, you know, when you get to the place you're supposed to be at, you'll know. And it sounds cliche, but got to TCU and I basically committed on the spot, and it was the right decision. It took all of 2 seconds for me to realize that's where I wanted to be, and that was kind of it from there.
Was Tony the lead recruiter for you, Howie, or was it like the whole staff recruiting you, or how did that work?
I would say it was mostly Tony. We had a lot in common. We knew a lot of the same people, and he's a good recruiter. I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fish he ever caught, but I'm glad he caught me.
Now, did you play against his dad's teams, or his dad was like doing soccer only at the time, or he was still coaching baseball?
His dad was the varsity baseball coach, so I pitched against his dad's teams, and maybe I had a good outing one time, and he called his son. So I think that's my understanding of how it happened.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. We'll come back to some of the coaches that have run through TCU. It's just really incredible. C-Dub, tell us, you're a DFW kid. Tell us, go Jaguars. Tell us how you got to TCU.
Go Jaguars, always. So went to Flower Run High School, so 30 miles from TCU, but had through my travel ball relationships, had some ties to TCU. One of my best friends, his dad was a catcher at TCU. Back in the 90s, and so got to go to plenty of games, but never had that thought of like, hey, it would be awesome to come play here. It was like, oh, that's a local college. It's fun to go watch. Watching Matt Perk pitch, watching Jason Coates swing the bat, like those were always really fun. I was pretty much dead set going to an unnamed ACC school that's blue and orange and won the national championship in 2015. Mom's an alum, so really? that is where I wanted to go for just the combination of the school and the baseball and whatnot, and so pretty much dead set doing that, and had a good week at one of our one of the PG tournaments out in Atlanta. When you start to the summer at that point before your senior year, got a number of opportunities there, and that's when Kirk Sarlos was there. I first got connected with him. He had just, I think, taken over the recruiting duties, and it was, hey, look, you're 30 minutes away from us. Come take a visit when you get home, and you'll see what's going on. And I had been to TCU probably 10, maybe 15 times to different games and whatnot up to that point, but never as a prospective student athlete. And I would echo 100% what Brian says. As soon as you step on that place and you look at the field and you get to talk to the people there and you just see the campus, it's one of those things where it's this is going to be really hard to say no to. And it also wasn't until my mom and I got off the plane in Charlottesville that I didn't realize how badly I actually wanted to stay in Texas. That I didn't realize how important that was to me. And in 4 years, they didn't miss a home game, which is something you really can't replace.
That's awesome. I didn't know the Virginia background. That's great. That's all.
I said Runes. I said unnamed.
Oh, that's great. That's so good. All right, so boys, let's jump into these runs. This is, again, let me set the stage here. So, Jim Sostingle takes over the program in 2004, and TCU had never taken baseball seriously. They just never invested in baseball. We started doing a normal NCAA tournament in the late 1940s. Let's call it like 1947. And Jim Sostingle, when he gets the job in 2004, that's basically almost 60 years. They had been to the NCAA tournament 2 times, not Omaha. I'm talking about regionals twice. So Jim Sostingle takes over in 2004. He just come from UNLV. Obviously, he had done an amazing job as a lead assistant at Tulane. And it gets going really quickly. They're making the NCAA tournament. And then finally, in 2009, there's a super regional. And then there's a problem, though, that Augie Garrido's at the height of his powers at Texas. And then in 2010 is when that famous TCU team finally gets to Omaha. And then 2011 is a regional team. That's great. 2012 is a super regional team at UCLA. What's interesting for you guys, like your careers in this streak, is that 2013 is, I would argue, of Jim Sostingle's 17 years at TCU, I'd argue that 2013 is the worst season. They're barely 500. It's not a regional team. And this is what's amazing. The coaching staff is famous. Like you mentioned, Howie, it's got, Jim Sostingle, Hall of Famer. Tony Vitello is now a big league manager, right? What he's done at Tennessee. Chuck Girolamo, who's now going from Florida to Tennessee, is there. But it's just, Todd Winning and Randy Mazey, who helped Slosh kind of, start the TCU program, are gone. And by all accounts, the 2013 thing is just not it's not working. It's not vibing, I guess, as the kids would say. And so Kirk Saarloos had come on the staff at that time. And in 2014, I would argue, and I want to make sure we mention Zach Etheridge, who was, obviously part of this and really does not get the credit he deserves for all this. But, let's call a fish a fish. Bill Mosiello coming in 2014 was a huge deal. And I could make an argument that this coaching staff, Sloss and Los and Mo, like this is a great all-time staff. Like three, head coaches, basically 3 guys that are just as good as it gets in their specific areas, and it's on. And so, Howie, why don't you go first? Like, as you think about coming into the 2014, that fall of 2013, like there's some newness, there's some change, and it just wasn't a good year the year before.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about that 2013 season is it was the first season in the Big 12 for TCU baseball.
Oh, okay.
So there was a lot of, were we in too deep? Were we better off where we were before? Were we not ready for the power? Well, I don't remember what it was at that point because it's changing every day, but were we not ready for that? But I think the thing that sticks out to me about that, the guys coming back from 13 to be like the leadership core of the 14 team, is that they weren't going to let it happen again, basically. Whether it was Preston Morrison or Kevin Crone or Dylan Fitzgerald or Keaton Jones. You could keep listing names like that, but those guys they had a bad taste in their mouth. And unfortunately for me, I didn't, I wasn't there the year before. So I just got there and I was like, dang, we're all in trouble. But we were. Then you go back to that coaching staff where when you add someone like Bill Mosiello, who, all-time great human, cliche again, but better human than coach, but he forgot more baseball than anybody I've ever met. And then, that 13 team still pitched the heck out of it. No strays to any offensive leadership from that group, but in terms of the position players, but those guys could pitch. And you had Preston Morrison, who I think is, if not the best college baseball pitcher of all time, he needs to be in that conversation, just in terms of being a walk-on and everything he did. But you have a guy like that, he'll right the ship pretty quick. And then you don't even mention Brandon Finnegan going on Fridays. So I think that we did kind of feel like we had something to prove, like, hey, we belong in this league, and not just in this league, at the top of it. And I think that coaching staff, once they gelled, it was on.
Yeah.
I think we started poorly that year. And I remember we had a kind of, a meeting, let's say, and there was a big whiteboard, and there was a bunch of big name schools written on the whiteboard. And the message from Coach Lossnagel was one of these teams is going to be in Omaha. And all the schools that were on the board were big programs with high expectations that were off to a slow start. And it was basically, how is it going to be us? And then basically, that's the year we led the nation in ERA, and that's kind of how we did it under Coach Saarloos. We had a simple plan, and he enforced it every day, repeated it, and he was, hey, we're gonna be the best pitching staff in the country, and then we were.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Kirk Saarloos for us unks was like one of the great. He's like, no offense, like Preston Morrison, I agree with what you're saying, Howie. Like, he is an all-time great. Kirk Saarloos, I would also put in that category. Like, this is back in the day where, Kirk Saarloos is closing for Fullerton on Fridays and throwing CGs on Sundays, and it was just bonkers. C-Dub, tell me about, like, if you had to describe playing offense for Bill Mosiello, how would you put that? How would you summarize that?
I don't know if we have enough time. Brian said this. His word, Coach Mo's words. He'll forget more than you'll ever know. Yeah. So it's the thing that I think still to this day, and I've got a handwritten note from him up behind me. That's who he is. He's going to coach you really hard and the right way. He's going to adapt what he needs to do to get the best out of whoever it is that he's talking to. But you may do, hey, you miss a sign and you think it's hit and run, you take off and get thrown out at second base, and it's the end of an inning, and he's going to chew you for 5 seconds, but then he's going to pat you on the back and say, hey, all right, I love you, go make a play. And that's who he is. But as far as playing offense for him, when we would get going, I mean, it felt like the Oregon Ducks before like no huddle was a real thing. And, Chip Kelly was doing what he did from an offensive coordinator perspective. That's how Mo liked to run it. How he liked to run it. And it's just constant motion. Everybody's moving around. We're going to be disciplined at the plate. We're looking for our pitch, those types of things. We were a team that, and I still now, even doing as much of the broadcast work, watching, TCU is not a team that's going to, I see some of these stat lines and these guys have 25 homers. And you've got guys that have 80 RBIs, we're halfway through April. I'm like, how is that the case? Because what we would do is if you've got Preston Morrison on the mound, that we're going to be out there for 2 hours and 10 minutes. We need to score 2 runs and we're going home to get our Chipotle after the game. And that's what we needed. That's what we needed to do then. But we had such a good pitching staff really on all of these years that we're talking about. It was one that's like, hey, how do we need to find a way to win this game? To win anyway. And whatever that was, whatever that took, somebody's going to have a big swing, a big AB, and we're gonna have a chance to tie the game. If we're behind in the 8th, no matter what, we're always going to have the tying run up at the plate. And Runes, I go back over this all the time. I think about it. It's like there's a handful of times that didn't happen in 4 years. Yeah. That we didn't at least have an opportunity. We didn't always get it every time. It's baseball, right? You're not going to hit 1,000 in those moments, but we're going to put ourselves in a position to, at minimum, have a chance to tie it up.
Yeah. So let me give you, we'll get to the 14 postseason because it's like, it doesn't, you guys don't like start slow and then go to bonkers. You guys go bonkers first and then just take it from there. But like you guys were saying, like some of the pitchers that I wrote down as I went through the rosters, like Riley Farrell, Preston Morrison, Brandon Finnegan, Alex Young, Trey Teakle, Mitchell Traver, Tyler Alexander, Dermon Felton, Jared Janzak, Lucan Baker pitched. I totally forgot about that. And, obviously what you did, Howie. And then I want to say this about these coaches as we get into it. It's like, I do, and I'm not being hyperbolic there. It's like, I do believe this is one of the greatest coaching staffs in our sports modern history because, Bill Mosiello, he was Chat GPT for baseball before it existed. Like every time, I'm not sure. Like, okay, if something like I remember calling Mo and saying, tell me when someone should consider 4 outfielders. Tell me when someone should consider 5 infielders. And it's like, you're getting a great answer. And then, like Kirk Saarloos, really as a big leaguer, coming to college baseball and like not big leaguing it at all, like just rolling his sleeves up and turning himself into a great recruiter and a great college pitching coach. And then again, Slosh, I think probably doesn't get enough credit for this, where he had done a lot in the coaching profession, but had the wisdom to say, okay, I've got these 2 stars for assistant coaches, and I need to have my imprint on the program. And that's like the mental game with Brian Cain and a lot of other things, but I need to let these guys do their thing. And that's hard to do as a coach, to feel like you're, not distancing yourself, but, you're letting go of the wheel, if you will. But that's what the great ones do. And I think that had a lot to do with this run. Slosh's ability to just say, all right, I need to let these guys do their thing. All right. So Howie, let me frame us up in 2014. So we get to the postseason, you guys are hosting, and you're playing the Siena Saints, right? And that should go fairly well. Except for we wake up in the 11th inning and it's a 1-1 ball game. So we've got to win 2-1 in the 11th inning to start off our regional. And then the famous 22-inning game, that's the 1-0 game against Sam Houston State. You throw 4 1/3 scoreless innings in your freshman year, no pressure. And again, I'm going to just frame it up and then you guys can do whatever you want with it. And obviously, C-Dub, for you, you're a senior in high school in the area, you're watching this. And then you guys play Pepperdine in the Super Regional. And the scores of those games are 3-2, and then you lose 3-2, and then you win 6-5, where you're down 5-4 in the 9th. And basically, Pepperdine had a player. It was basically Clark Kent, but he wasn't in street clothes. Aaron Brown, left-handed pitcher, center fielder, was literally Superman that weekend. So Howie, go wherever you want, but those 2 weekends to get you guys to Omaha, it's nuts.
Well, first of all, I remember Friday night against Siena, Brandon Finnegan, who was like 4 months away from pitching in the Big League World Series, threw a complete gem. And I should remember the guy's name because it was impressive. But the Friday guy for Siena just matched him pitch for pitch. And it was a 1-1 ball game in the 11th. And we're just like, what's going on? Then the 22-inning game, I mean, that one was my favorite story from that is, it starts at 7 and gets to be about midnight and the fans are all kind of gone. A bunch of the student section empties out. We're like, oh man, we still got some baseball left. We're losing a little home field advantage. And then when the bars closed at about 2:00, that student section filled back up and then we went on to win. So that kind of gives you an idea how long that game went on, is that everyone had their Friday night or Saturday night in Fort Worth and said, oh, let's go catch the end of that ball game. And then the Pepperdine, super regional was, I think about it where I didn't know what was on the other side at this point. I hadn't been to the College World Series yet. So I didn't know. I mean, I knew I wanted to go, but I didn't know really what it meant to go or how great it was once you were there. So I think maybe that played into our benefit a little bit, where we're like, hey, you don't know what you don't know. We really want to go, but it felt different than the next 3 years where I knew we had to get back there. That was kind of like, we're not leaving without going there first. But Aaron Brown, the Shohei before Shohei, I actually got the chance to play with him in professional baseball. He was in Double-A and I was in Triple-A, and we got news that he was getting called up, and I was like, well, we're never going to lose another game. He's the best baseball player on planet Earth. We should be fine from here on out. So I got to play with him. What he did that weekend, I mean, it was unbelievable. We were terrified of the kid. It was unbelievable what he was able to do that weekend.
Yeah, first of all, he was built like Bo Jackson. He was like a left-handed Bo Jackson. He's massive with this flaming red hair, which made him even more intimidating. And he's left. I swear he pitched the game that they beat you guys. And I might have the order mixed up, but he pitched great. And he also, didn't he throw someone out at home plate to?
Yeah. I mean, this is mine. I mean, it's like, I'm talking about Paul Bunyan here, but I think he threw 8 scoreless and then went and played center field in the 9th and threw out the tying run at the dish. And he looked like Jason Statham, and what is this guy, and can we get him out of here?
Yes. And then in the regional, didn't Boomer White have the game-winning hit in both of those games? Am I remembering that right?
He got every big hit for us that year. I think if you watch the video of his big hit against Sam Houston, it's the old regional format. Are they still doing that, Runes, where you're home but you're not home?
Yeah. You back then. Yes. Well, it's you're home more now. It's almost like calculus 12 to find out who's the home team.
So we were the visitors at Lupton, and so Boomer gets that hit, and the place goes crazy, and the broadcast says TCU walks it off. Good. Well, no, we got to go back out, and we got to finish this hard 22 the way it's meant to be played.
So great. C-Dub, tell me, so you're a senior in high school, you're local, you got to be like, I'm sure you were already super excited, but now it's got to be like next level.
Well, it was cool to watch this team because, Brian, I think you alluded to this before, the start that year was slow. And, it was somewhere near 500, like halfway through. And I just remember watching you guys rattle up. I think you went 30-3 down the stretch is what keeps coming back to me. And I remember watching the sweep at Texas. And it was like, hey, these guys are on a roll. And this is fun to watch. And it was one where, because we were close, Runes got to come to a bunch of games that year, would take advantage of the tickets for commits that were there and get to go hang out and watch. I was my best friend in high school at the time was committed to play at Sam Houston. So that was a fun one. We stayed up. Our high school graduation was sometime right around that time, being the first week of June. And I think we made it to the 15th before we crashed on the couch. So we got to see who won the next morning when we woke up. But it was just to follow that run, I think was cool. And then it makes you inspired. It's like, man, I can't wait to be a part of this. You're right. Getting to see Clark Kent play was pretty sweet as well. And then the way that ended too, with Botchak getting that bunt down, and I didn't know it at the time, but just Runes, back to the last question about playing offense from inside. We're going to find out whatever crack there is here, and we're going to find a way to try and kick that door in. So unbelievable to just watch from 30 minutes north.
That's awesome. All right, so you guys in 2014, you were a top 8 national seed, so you didn't host by accident. You're the 7 seed, and then in 2015, it's same thing. You guys are the 7. You're the number 7 national seed, so you're going to host again. And this we're going to get to the rivalry with A&M, like that's going to get kickstarted this year, but not yet because the regional got wild. You guys win your first game. Now, C-Dub, you're a freshman. You're the Big 12 Freshman of the Year at this time. And now, like I said earlier, we've got like infinite unpronounceable names on the roster. So we're all set. And then you guys lose the 1-0 game to NC State. And then you come all the way through the regional, and you're playing NC State in game 7. Like you've beaten them once on the way back through. And they are – but, you tune in, and you guys are down 8-1. In the 8th inning, and it's it's kind of over, right? Like this team obviously is good. They wouldn't be in a regional. They wouldn't be in a regional final if they weren't good. It's 8-1, and then unfortunately for NC State and very fortunately for the Frogs, they have an epic meltdown. Now I would argue like you guys have to pressure them to do that, right? It's like it's a lot of balks and walks and errors, but I think that's part of Bill Mozio's offense. Clearly it sped up on NC State too. Let's call fish there. But C-Dub, you start us off. Like what? I go wherever you want with this, but like that game was over.
Yeah, it was very much over. I was talking about the flight time that I had to go to Alaska the next day to play summer ball. I mean, I'll never forget that conversation in the dugout. But yeah, I actually and I forget. It's funny, years pass. I mean, we're 10 years past that game now, but going back to it, I didn't even remember that I started that with just a routine ground ball to second base, change up that was 2 balls off the plate that I rolled right to the second baseman, but put a little bit of extra English on it, I guess. But the amount of here you go, there it is.
Well, Wanhanen's going.
Yeah, way to not go the other way with that.
Catalyst.
But the series of events that happen from here is you can't. It's one of those things that you can't plan for, and you just have to. It truly was the embodiment of pass the baton to the next guy or pass the torch to the next guy. We're not gonna, there's no 7-run homer in college baseball as far as I'm aware. And we weren't a team that was really we didn't have a whole lot of home run threats as it was. So it was something that we were just going to have to piece together. And, guys like Derek Odell that you see, those guys, Brian, that your team that had been there the year before, there was so much just calm. And that roster was, it was 5 seniors. You had 2 JUCO transfer juniors, and then, Evan Staug and myself as freshmen. So the amount of experience and poise that was there, Garrett Crane running through first base there on the screen, we had so much to lean on. And there was really never any like, okay, let's just try and get it close. Let's get it close to see what happens. And then it got weird. It got really weird.
That's awesome. Hey, so Howie, you can go wherever you want on the regional, but let me get us to the super regional too, because this is equally wacky. So if I'm not mistaken, against A&M, you guys win the first game. You lose in 10 innings in game 2, and then game 3 for Omaha is a 16-inning, like just out of control affair. So, and I think you pitched in that game, if I'm not mistaken, Howie. But we're again looking for your favorite memories from those 2 weekends.
I mean, the whole thing was just a whirlwind because those games, you're not supposed to win the NC State one. That's supposed to be out of control, and then your season ends. But then it didn't, and then you go and you play A&M, and there's they're only 2.5 hours away, and then you feel pretty good. You got Preston Morrison on your team, so you think you're going to go 1-0 and just about against anybody. But I think that 16-inning game goes back to kind of what Connor was saying about the senior laden teams that we had, where those guys just didn't get rattled. But I mean, that 16-inning game against Texas A&M was, I know we just watched a pretty good World Series game last night. So, that's kind of what it felt like, where every pitch it felt like could decide the game, but then we did it for 16 innings. And, we had guys pitching that out of the bullpen for the first time, Mitchell Traver. That one of the most
he was unbelievable.
Yeah, one of the most iconic outings during the whole 4-year stretch. And maybe his freshman year a little bit he pitched out of the bullpen, but he'd never done that before. And then to come into that situation and do what he did, I think it was 5 or 6 innings, and when we win, he's got the big hot sleeve on his arm running around. He looks like Goliath. He's just an enormous guy, and he's just throwing hammer curveballs, and it did it for 6 innings when he wasn't supposed to. And it was just that kind of stuff. It just seemed like throughout the course of this 4-year stretch, people stepped up, when they had to. And I guess that's how you go to the College World Series 4 years in a row, is you just have more of those moments where people just seemed better prepared than the opposition. And I think that's what that coaching staff that you've talked about a couple times, did for us. Those guys just, is this one? No, this is the actual winner. Watch Craner run right through a stop sign.
Yes. Kyle Peterson mentions that on the broadcast. You better be safe.
You got to be safe there on that one. Here comes Traver. Look at look at him.
Oh, that's so great.
I mean, you talk about, earlier in that game, there he is with his arm sleeve on. Scalgi hits like 109 mile an hour line drive with guys on, guy on third, off the chest, hits him right in the chest, and Scout squares it up. The game should have been ended there, and just hits him in the chest, bounces down in front of me, and throws Scalgi out at first. So it was just kind of like each time we just seemed to find a way to make it one more, like Connor said, pass the baton one more time, and I think that's the identity of a Bill Mosiello offense, is just give yourself a chance, and then you find yourself in those chances. And then, when it happens over 4 years, you kind of expect to come through in those. And then, that's kind of what builds a culture.
And Cito, I'm going to ask you about Omaha in a second, but I do want to say this, as where TCU hadn't been a nationally relevant in baseball, right? That's not me being harsh, but this program's now relevant, right? Like you're going to Omaha for the 3rd time in whatever that is, 6 years, and it's and just the people around the program, I think, I don't know when Chris Del Conte was the athletic director at TCU, but that's part of that. Obviously, he's become so famous, and I think about Brandy Davidson, who's one of my, I think everybody's favorite SID in college baseball, just loves it. And we talked about Chuck, who you get to broadcast with, Connor, and Brian Kane's part of your program. It's just like each time you meet someone new in the TCU program at the time, the more impressed you are, like the way the players carried themselves. And then the success starts to make sense. When you guys get to Omaha, C-Dub, if I'm not mistaken, you go 2-2, but you beat LSU twice, and those are Bregman LSU teams, right?
Those are Bregman LSU. That whole LSU roster, I felt like, because the scoreboard at it was TD Ameritrade at the time. Now it's the Schwab, but they would show the draft pick, because this was when the draft was during the Super Regional, so you got to see where guys went, and I think that entire roster was top 5, top 7 round picks. I mean, it was stacked top to bottom.
Yeah, crazy. So the Omaha thing is kind of, hey, you win one game, now you go 2-2, and it's the program is just humming right now. So let's go to 2016. So 2016 is interesting because now, so for you, Howie, this is going to be your junior year, right? And then you're a sophomore, C-Dub. And the regional's pretty smooth. It's now maybe it didn't feel smooth from the inside, but from the outside, you guys go 3-0 and it's no problems. But now it's this A&M thing again, right? And this time you guys are going there. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So tell me what you guys remember about those 2 weekends.
Go ahead. Was that the Virginia in our regional?
That was 17. That was 17.
Yeah, Virginia, DBU in 17. This is like Gonzaga, Arizona State, and like Oral Roberts.
All right. Connor, why don't you go first? I clearly
Runes, I don't remember much about that regional, honestly. Which is a good thing, right? That's a good thing. But yeah, going to College Station and Bluebell, I'll never forget that one. Just the atmosphere, it's different, and the Big 12, we get to play at a lot of really cool places, just from a conference perspective. But then, going there was that's a different beast. I remember Jared Janczak started game one down there. I think we went 3 up, 3 down in the top of the first inning in game one, and they went double within the first 3 pitches, and the bubbles start coming out and the chants, and I was playing first base, and I got the throw in as they score their first run of the game, and Jared, just as Jared as he can be, I toss it back to him as we're at home plate, and it is, I don't know what the decibels are, but it's pretty ridiculous because everybody's just on top of you completely. He said, "Well, we're not in Kansas anymore," and But I mean that environment playing there, that's what you ask for, and that team that year was we were just talking about loaded team. I mean that team we had no business on paper competing with that team, and it really was one where it's like this. If this could get out of hand, if they play their best game and we don't, type of thing. But it was another one of those. It's just gritty. It's gritty. It was so much fun. It's so much fun to play. It's so much fun to win there.
That's awesome. Howie, what was your role? That's your junior year. What are you starting now? Is that where are you in the weekend rotation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pitched that weekend, but I think there's another little storyline that we should mention is who was playing third base for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Boomer White. And so Boomer and I are still very good friends. We were friends throughout this whole time, which may seem counterintuitive, but he was a good guy who wanted to be an Aggie. And so he made that decision. We didn't all support him. I supported him. I wanted him to be a happy fella, and he was. But then all of a sudden we're playing with game 3 to go to Omaha on the line. And so you kind of got to take a step back. But I mean, that was, as you talk about all the drama that we had during this time, that probably was the peak of it, because we just played him in 16 innings the year before to go to Omaha. And now we got to go down to their place. And like Connor said, I mean, Janczak throws a gem, and then it just, that place gets going. I think their guy threw a complete game on Saturday, right? I think Kyle.
Yeah, that's right. They beat you guys 7-1 on Saturday. Yeah,
and then when that place, I mean, that place gets going, it's crazy, and that was peak bubbles, and and then when we clinch it, and arguably not a strike on the last pitch of the game, but it was called and Durbin goes with the thumbs down on the mound. It was just a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, that was a great dog pile.
That was the best dog pile. That one felt different, and that was the only year we weren't a national seed. And arguably that was, our best chance at the whole thing, I think.
That was our best chance at the whole thing, for sure.
After that, you're 2-0, and Omaha, you had beaten Coastal, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one that out of all 4 years from after that picture that's on the screen right there, it's the only part of it that's not fond memories. I think we had a real chance that year.
And that was, but to the point though of like, there was comfort, I think, across the board now. It's like, okay, we know what to expect when we get to Omaha now. Yeah. And Brian, for you and your class, it's the third time. For us, it was, I remember all the graphics that the social media teams were putting out was the combined amount of trips between the players. And just because there was so much familiarity with the process, the fanfare, how the field plays, all those things. Like, okay, now let's go, and we're going to win this thing now. Yeah. And Lucan hits his ridiculous home run against Texas Tech in game 1.
Oh gosh,
to win it, which was just dumb. And then we're sitting in the catbird seat with going 2-0. But then that's also trying to take us as people out of it. That Coastal run is what you love about baseball, and it's why I didn't love anything about it either. It's pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible, even to think about now. But that's the way that they were playing the game. It was just we ran into Andrew Beckwith, and he continued to do what he had done to people all year, and
Lord
they were just that was their year. But it's the one that still stings the most for us.
Yeah, I will say though. Oh, go ahead, Howie. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, all the politically correct things that Connor said about how great it is to watch that team play. That one's just different. We should. That's the one you wish you had back.
Yes,
I think that team that we had, we were we were doing some special things, and we were really grooving, and we weren't really supposed to be there anymore. Because if you think about that 16 team, well, what did we talk about the whole time in the crazy NC State and the 16-inning game from 15? It was a senior-laden team.
Yep.
Well, what happens when you're a senior? Unless it's, what's going on now. What you can say for 10 years. But those guys had to leave. So then now it's a new team. And I think we were picked towards the middle of the pack in the Big 12. And we had a bunch of, at that point, guys who I had been on the teams. I pitched a little bit. I contributed. Wanhanen and Scalgi played, and they were real contributors. But if you look at that team, we didn't bring much back from the 2 trips prior. So it was kind of us getting a chance now that all, the Preston Morrisons arrived, Equals, just icons around the program aren't there anymore. Now we get to kind of try to see if we can do what they did. So that year, I think, was really special for a lot of people because it kind of solidified. And it also, it wasn't just those guys that took us to Omaha twice. And then all of a sudden it became a program thing where it was like, okay, TCU doesn't need Preston Morrison to get here. Now it helps, and we probably wouldn't have lost to Coastal if we had him, but kind of solidified us as, hey, we could have been in a rebuilding year, and everyone's still been really happy because we just went to Omaha back-to-back, but it kind of, it's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. I would say too, I agree with everything you guys said about Coastal and how cool that is, and that's so unique to our sport. Our I remember Chris Burke said this recently, where it's like, if you want to be great in college football, plan on raising $1 billion. You want to be great in college baseball, it's in the millions, and it might not even be double-digit millions, right? It's so cool. That's what's so cool about our sport. But I would say too, your 2 years of super regionals with Texas A&M. Those were real inflection points for our sport continuing to grow, especially our postseason. Those 2 atmospheres, one in Fort Worth, one in College Station, were so electric, and the games were so compelling. I remember, I think the crews both years were Kyle Peterson and Chris Burke and Tom Hart. I think they went both years. I could have that a little bit wrong. And then just it almost felt like put it in the calendar. We don't know whether we're going to Fort Worth or College Station, but we know we're going there for a super. And, I just remember hearing those guys talk about it and how much fun it was and how electric and all, and again, that A&M team, I think you said it, Connor, it's they're the number 4 national seed coming out of the SEC. I think Tyler Naquin's the one name that rings that. I don't even know if he was on that team, but who was the famous player on that team? Anybody?
Nick Banks.
Yeah, Nick Banks.
Boomer White. Everyone hit 360 on that whole team. And
JB Moss was really good for them leading off.
Yeah, Boomer was SEC Player of the Year. I think he hit 415. You go down that lineup, and it was a crazy one. But yeah, I think that's a good point about what kind of happened in college baseball during those 2 times, because everyone, watches the College World Series because it's on, but that was kind of the time where we were starting getting super regionals and regionals on ESPN proper, I think is what, during that time you were playing on, whether it was ESPN or ESPN2, and then all of a sudden people got to see the atmospheres around college baseball instead of just the beautiful Omaha, but it is a little bit more sterile. And then you get to say, okay, you get to watch these people go down to Fort Worth and then College Station, and you get to hear a little bit about it, and you can kind of associate it, say, oh, that looks like a Saturday in the fall. It's the same passion, and I think that's a really unique way to look at it, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I think that it is pretty cool to see college baseball in that light.
Yeah. I would also add too, like a couple years ago, 2023, when TCU had, May 1st, they're not even making the NCAA tournament. Next thing you know, they're in Omaha, and the point I wanted to make there is they're hosting Indiana State in a super regional, and there's 9,200 people in Lupton each night. And I remember when that attendance figure was quoted to me, I was like, I'm sorry, that's not there. I don't even think they can fit 9,000 people in there. And then you see the scenes, and you're like, yeah, you're dang right. That's 9,200 people. I mean, you probably called. You were probably there, C-Dub, and it was out of control. It was nuts.
It was pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, and even playing up until that point, I think it was the 16-inning game against Texas A&M was the largest capacity that there's ever been there. But yeah, I mean, you can see there There, 92 people may have been in attendance rooms, but I do not think that 9,200 people could see the actual field from where they would have been sitting. But they packed them in there, and it was a heck of an atmosphere. There's a lot of being able to broadcast that and see it. But to your point, I mean, it's I think year in and year out, and I feel very fortunate, obviously, just by nature of what we're here talking about with you tonight, of when we had the opportunity to play where we did. But it is really cool to see the game continue to grow, especially at this level, and with all the things that are changing across college sports, and what you guys do with squeeze play now is I'm so jealous that we weren't playing during that, when that was kind of like where it is right now. It's so cool. It's so cool to see it, and everybody tunes in. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. By the way, 2016, before we go to 17, was that Lucan Baker's freshman year?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He homered in like 51 consecutive games.
he was that back then, like that they were coming out of the dead ball era, dead everything era. But he was the one guy, like you referenced it, Howie, the home run he hit against Texas Tech, that like I'm sure it showed up on NASA's radar that day. Like it looked like it came out of artillery or something.
It was 3 balls in off the plate. Like
wasn't a bad pitch.
Yeah, with like serious sink. And then Lucan just pulls his hands in and keeps it fair.
He was something.
He was a big part of our success, I'd say.
Yeah, incredible. Hey, so let's do 17. So we talked about it. You guys have UVA, just 2 years off their national title in your regional. You have DBU, who's always a scary team to have in your regional. But you kind of handle it. It looked like it was not. You guys were just playing great. And then you get Missouri State, who had upset Arkansas in the super regional, and they had 2 of the scariest hitters in college baseball. Yep. Jake Berger, and Jake Berger was famous, like he was going to be a first rounder if he hadn't already been one. But their shortstop Jeremy Ironman basically won the Fayetteville regional. Like he went up there and just was like, I'm going to keep hitting home runs until you people tell us we get to go to Fort Worth. It was outrageous what a streak he was on.
Yeah.
And I think he hit a homer off of Jared pretty early in that super, that it was a mishit ball the other way down the right field line, and it was okay. I see what they've been saying now. That was a great offense that we played, and we without Evan Scoug's home run late in I can't remember if it was game 1 or 2. I think it was game 1. We would have been in trouble that weekend.
Because game 1 was tight. Game 1 was 3-2, and then it looked like you guys kind of handled them in game 2. But and like I'm glad you brought up Evan Scoug. I remember he had one of the more unique seasons that year. Oh yeah, it was like 20 home runs, 1 billion RBIs, and 98 punch-outs. Like, and Evan's like this Central Illinois or wherever in Illinois, and he's got these plumber hands. Like, I'm pretty sure he didn't wear batting gloves, but like his hands looked like he'd been working construction for 25 years and then did college baseball. He was an all-time favorite player.
Yeah, he ate pine tar. And
that's right. And the eye black, that's right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Evan, we should talk a little bit about Evan, because he came to campus, and Connor as well. But Evan, just came to campus and decided, I'll just catch every game while I'm here, and no one else is going to do it. And I'll be back there for 3 years. And he's, a Hall of Famer. And he kind of took on a leadership role way earlier than, a freshman should, but that's the nature of that position. And he just did such a good job at it. And look at him. His last shower was weeks ago at that point.
The 20 home runs though that you talk about that year too, they were so backloaded in conference tournament into the postseason, and they came at the biggest possible times too. That's what makes it so interesting. And we still joke now, he's glad that we didn't make the championship series in Omaha that year, because he was headed for the century mark pretty quick.
Yeah, that's right. It was a lot of, and that takes mental toughness, right? To strike out that much and still be, yeah. And like, that was another great lesson for me about Bill Mosiello, where, like when I think of Mo, he's a West Coast guy and 2-strike approach and all those types of things. But Mo, I thought, you guys know it from the inside, but from the outside, I perceived it as Mo did a great job just embracing who Evan was offensively, that he's going to strike out, but he's also going to hit balls through the fence at times. And we can have both. Like, you don't have to Like what does every coach do for Evan Scout? Hey, we got to get you down to 50 strikeouts. And then you start making compromises that you don't see coming. But it felt like that was the perfect embrace of, hey, here's what we got, and let's make the best of it.
Right. I think that is a great point about Coach Mo's versatility, because you know that he didn't like the punchies, but he knew what he had in Evan, and he lived with it because of, what else it provided for our team. And frankly, we needed that in the middle of the lineup, some serious thump with him and Lucan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you guys get to Omaha, and of course, like I my favorite thing about college baseball is redemption stories. So A&M is there, which is so cool because you guys have just shredded their hearts for 2 straight years, and now they play Davidson in that super regional, and they get to Omaha, and again, their program was just humming at that time, so they had earned that. But of course, you guys are not done breaking their hearts, and you beat them in game 1. But then, if I'm not mistaken, do I have that wrong? You guys lost the first game.
The little Horned Frogs ended Texan A&M season 3 years in a row.
Incredible. But no, that was in the losers bracket because you guys lost game 1 to Florida that year, right?
Correct.
And then did you win 3 straight to take Florida to a game 7? Winner goes to the finals?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that just gave Faedo enough time to rest.
Yeah, it gave him another day of rest.
I mean,
did you guys have to face him twice?
Twice.
Faedo?
I think he was 14 innings, and I don't know if we got a runner to third against him.
And that was also Brady. Did you guys beat Singer or Kowar, or who did you beat when you beat them?
We beat Kowar, and I think we scored 9 runs against Kowar, but I struck out 3 times. I swear I've never seen a changeup that broke twice, and it broke twice. It broke 2 times, but everybody else saw it well. So that staff, Runes, was unbelievable. Everybody that came out of there. I mean, we kind of learned a little bit about how what others, opponents maybe felt against our 14 and 15 club.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, let me ask you guys this question. So, you've had 4 different NCAA tournament experiences, and 4 different Omahas for you, Howie, 3 for you, C-Dub. What's the difference between your 3rd or 4th Omaha and your 1st Omaha, besides the results that happen on the field? Or are there different things that you appreciate when you go a 2nd or 3rd or 4th time? Or is it really, once you've gone once, now it's really, you're just going to remember the results on the field?
I think, Connor, tell me if I'm wrong. I think that's, well, maybe not. I think 14 and 16 both felt like more joyous. Like, we did it. Like, we're here again. Like 14, in fact, that 13 went so bad, and none of us had ever been there as players. And so it was just, we were just so happy to be going to Omaha. And then 15, it kind of felt like, okay, we better get back to Omaha. And then 16, it was kind of like, everybody's gone. What are we going to do? Go to Omaha. And then 17, it's like, hey, we better get back there. Like, guys turned down the draft to come back. It almost felt like mandatory. And then I think that those years that were more joyous obviously seem a little bit more fun when you're going there, because it, not necessarily expected, or, you had to get there. But that just, Connor, do you think that that's an accurate way to look at it?
That's interesting. I've actually never thought of it that way, but I think it's because I didn't have the 14 experience too. I think, Rins, you said this like kind of in the open here, like it's so hard to get there once, but what it became the expectation, and it became the expectation internally. It became the expectation externally within the Fort Worth community. Everybody was booking their plane tickets in December, January for Omaha in June. And it was just, hey, we're going and we're doing it. And yeah, it's 5 wins, but the work that you have to do to get up to that point is something that I think even as players, we probably took for granted a little bit. Like, hey, we're going to go through all the steps, and we're not going to go through the motions. We're going to do it really intentionally. And we're going to do our strength and conditioning program with Zach Dakin. We're going to treat our nutrition the right way. We're going to do our right work in the classroom. All of the little things that we did, I think that Coach Schloss and the rest of the staff kind of drilled into our heads. But it became a part of who we were. We're going to go through all those things, but we know at the end of the day, it's going to end at the College World Series. And it's one, I think that we did, if we're being honest, 10 years after some of these, like, yeah, I think we took it for granted a little bit at some point that it's like, hey, we're going to do when the chips fall, it's going to be there. It's just a matter of how we play over there.
Let me ask you guys this question. I bet you Slosh was getting asked this question left and right, Mo and Los at the same time. But like, you guys are like unequivocally qualified to answer this question because of the experiences you had. What if I'm coming to you as a player or a coach and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to Omaha for the first time and I want to do both. I want to have the lifetime experience that it is. Like, I want to drink this thing in, but I also want to win games. Like, what is, because I feel like it's always one or the other, or sometimes it feels like one or the other. It's like we lose our minds there and then we don't play well, or it's like we pretend we're not in Omaha and it's not a big deal and just, go overboard on the plane. Like, you start, Howie. Like, what's counsel that you would give someone on, like, hey, I want to be selfish here. I want both.
Yeah. Well, it's easy if you're a pitcher because you just got to lock in for one time. But I think that the real answer to your question is, I think you have to enjoy it. I think once you enjoy it, I think that'll free it up. I remember 4 years in a row, I was big, taking videos of the concert at opening ceremonies, just take it all in. You're there for, you never know when you're going to get back. And then I think once it's baseball time, it's just baseball time. And I think that you're either going to be able to do it or not. But I don't think you should forfeit the opportunity to like play at that place because it's really special. And a lot of people come to watch. So I think you should just enjoy it first and then let the baseball take care of itself.
Love that. C-Dub, what say you?
Yeah, there's definitely a rhythm and a flow to it. And my advice would be, you try and get as much of the, drinking in the fanfare part of it, that first part of the week. And then do the best you can to get into your routine, that you had for the preceding 3.5 months as quickly as possible. And it's, you got to get used to the playing surface. How many times are you playing in front of 35,000 people? Probably not many over the course of your other. My first at bat was against Jared Poche at LSU in 2015 there, and I swung and missed at 3 fastballs by this much because I'm looking at the beach balls in the outfield. Like, you've got to get used to that stuff. But once you can, strap it down and realize that, hey, we're doing the same thing that we've done all year to get us here. That's the teams that are successful playing, now at the Schwab are the ones that are able to compartmentalize that.
Yeah. Would you guys like? I have this thought in my head, and it's, I'm being very general here because not every experience is the same, not every trip to Omaha is the same. But I perceive and I believe that the super regionals are a more pressure-filled weekend than the games that you play in Omaha. Would you guys agree with that, or is that not a fair statement?
For sure,
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Like Connor mentioned, there's 35,000 people, but nobody's screaming at you. They're there for the experience. That, like, the environment in a super regional, whether it was in Lupton or College Station, those are the only places that I ever played a super regional. But from what I can tell, watching on TV and other places, it's venomous. Like, you have teams that hate each other, and then that gets built on by a crowd who hates one of the teams too, and they're right on top of you. And all that kind of pressure doesn't happen in Omaha. I mean, you're really playing, and they're like Connor said, they're more focused on the beach balls than what's going on in the game. And it could be Arkansas fans from the game before still trickling in or out. Most of the time it's going to be more in your face in a super regional, and those weekends are a lot tougher to navigate than I would say Omaha was.
The other thing too is just proximity. Like, I mean, Brent, think back to College Station. I mean, those fans are on top of you. Lupton, they're for opposition, they're on top of you. And when you're in Omaha, there's a lot of foul territory. You've got a lot of separation, big dugouts, those type. You can kind of be in your own little world. Yeah. But it runs out. 100% agree. I think you're definitely squeezing the bat a little bit tighter that week before in the supers.
Yeah. Agreed. Hey, let's wrap with this. What is, like, so many great, that's why I knew this would be a fun conversation to have, because there's just, like, you look at the 4 years and it's just outrageous. All the different, like, all the things that you guys have to execute perfectly in this moment for this to happen 4 times. instead of like 0 times, right? Like 0 times is on the table. Like this happens, and it's 0 times, not 4 straight. But what's the memory? Like there's tons of memories, but what's the most intense memory? Like for you, Howie, is it your freshman year? Is it the is it the 16-inning game with A&M? Forgetting necessarily like the Omaha part, but like of the getting to Omaha, is there one memory that is like the most intense of all of them?
I think it would have been 15, the Super Regional against Texas A&M at home, because I think that we were the better team that year. I think we were the team that should have won, and I think that brings a different kind of pressure than we'd experienced in 14 or even in 16, where I think we're the better team here, and now we need to just come out and do it. And then when it gets to extra innings, anything can happen, like we saw last night, and like you'll continue to see in baseball, anything can happen. And when you're in an extra inning baseball game, and every single pitch felt like it was the game, I think that 16-inning bout where loser went home, winner went to Omaha was probably the most stressful, most turning point moment of my career at TCU.
Love that. C-Dub, what say you?
I hate to just be the broken record, but that 7 days in 15 of, okay, you've got the 8-1 comeback against NC State. I think that was a Monday night, and then you roll off a couple of days of practice and you go right into that. It was a heavyweight bout, is what it was, because game 1, I think we actually won pretty handily. Game 2 was Preston Morrison pitched into the 10th inning, I think, and we ended up losing 2-1. But then that 16-inning game, it wasn't like a super high scoring affair. It was a one just giant, haymaker punch after the other, and who was going to be the one that just kind of threw that last one, and going through that range of emotions all in 7 days. Because I think that was a Monday to Monday. That then gave us, I think, that core that was there over the course of those kind of next few years. Hey, there's nothing that we're going to experience that is going to make us uncomfortable. It's really just going to come down to execution. And when you have that belief in those types of tests, battle-tested type experiences, it's a really dangerous group to have to go against.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Gentlemen, I really appreciate this. I knew this was going to be a blast. And it's just, again, I want to say this, like, man, the more you're around TCU baseball, even today, but especially during that era when it was really like, you guys were becoming this national program, each person you met was better than the last, this program has attracted so many great people. And so not only is that cool, but it makes the experience more fun, it's just, man, I just think it reassures people that, right, like you can win big and still carry yourself first class all the way and be great people. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And man, is that encouraging. So, and like we said, then you wake up in 2023 and there's 9,200 people, who may or may not be able to see the game in Lupton Stadium, watching the Frogs play Indiana State in a Super Regional. Just incredible. So, gentlemen, I appreciate this. This was great. For the listeners, thank you for tuning in. We have one more next week. We're going to talk about the Illinois team from 2015. I would argue one of the best teams in the history of the Big Ten. They were a top 8 national seed, just unfortunately ran into Dansby Swanson and Vandy in that Super Regional. But still, when we unpack that, just, again, an incredible 50-win season right in the middle of the state of Illinois. So that is it. Everyone have a great week, and we will catch you next time on Sunday Night Conversations.